Well, hey, it's Rob, and I recently made an addition to my office slash music room here that I am fortunate enough to have in our house. And you can see right there to the left and to the right, or whatever direction that you might be seeing them in. I put up two CD towers I found on Facebook Marketplace. I have CDs up in this room here, but I did not have a place to display them. They were kind of piled up or in a box in the corner or whatever. I always thought it was kind of tacky when you'd go to someone's house and you'd see like that cheap wire rack with CDs like displayed in the living room or whatever. So, I really, for many years, thought I don't need to see my CDs or anything like that as long as I have access to them. But, I just had a spot over there and over there. Got a bay window there where these racks from IKEA that have been discontinued. And if you go online, people are like, why don't they still make those? They're perfect. And it just happened to be that they were perfect for the little bit of space that I have on either side of the window there. So I put up my CD rack. And as I sat in this room and I looked at them, I thought, why did I buy so many goddamn CDs? So I'll go back to my history with CDs and talk about, how much I think maybe that I've spent over the years. And, we'll just fast forward to 2024 and I'll talk about my relationship with CDs and, other physical media at this point. But to start with, I had a roommate in college. His name was Rich. He was kind of a cool guy. We all looked up to him. And he had a connection with somebody, and he was able to get, I think, a Japanese Sony CD player, one of the first ones available on the market. Matter of fact, it probably wasn't even available in the States or whatever. He got it through a distributor or some guy. And so our sophomore year of college, we went up to his room, which he called the Digital Domain. And the Digital Domain, that was actually the name of a CD test disc that you could buy. I do own a copy. The Digital Domain is really funny. It has some music, and then it has some like sine waves, and then it has like a basketball going from the left side to the right side, and these like weird cut up pastiches of dialogue. Lions are growing in the air, and all this weird stuff. Anyway, back then it was like rocket science. We were fascinated by CDs. I mean, if you think about it, you had records which got scratched up and they got worn out if you used them. You had to be careful with them. The covers would get bent, all that stuff. And, when your girlfriend got mad at you, she'd scratch the record and return it to you. That happened to me once. You have cassettes, but the cassettes, again, would get worn out. You'd leave them in your car in the sun and they'd melt, or the tapes would bunch up, or whatever. You didn't really have an archival format that, if you played it the first time or you played it the 10,000th time, it's exactly the same. And that's a CD. So we were thrilled to listen to the 3 CDs that he owned in his bedroom, the Digital Domain. And of course, I wanted a CD player as soon as I saw that. I don't think I got one till that summer, which would have been the summer of 86. So actually 85 was when he got the CD player. And in 86, that summer, I went and bought myself a Sony CD player. And this is the first CD I ever owned. This is the compilation disc, The Cure, Staring at the Sea, the singles. It has 17 songs on it. It's a nice, long collection of Cure songs from the earliest stuff to the stuff at that point that was current in the mid 80s. And I remember this disc cost $35. CDs were really expensive back then. You'd go to a record store and in a little section of maybe one rack that used to have albums, you would see the CDs in there. This may have even been before long boxes. I don't remember. I feel like maybe this was in a long box. But anyway, if you don't know the long box, it was a way to make the CD fit in the racks that already existed for records. And it was just a cardboard box that literally was rectangular like that. And it would sit there. It was totally wasteful. You would take your long box and throw it in the trash as soon as you bought it. But anyway, I remember going to Tower Records, over those years, and you would look in their dumpster and they would just be piled to the top with long boxes. But anyway, this was it. That's how much CDs were initially. Of course, they came down pretty quickly after that, but $35 for my investment in my first CD here. I know that on this particular CD, I even went, and I don't know if you can see it, but I took my green Sharpie and I went around the edge, because for years they said if you put green Sharpie around the edge of this CD, it would keep the laser rays from bouncing around. They'd sound better. Didn't work at all. It didn't do anything to the CD, but anyway, the point being that I bought this in 1986. We're going on almost 40 years. It still plays. It still works fine. They always predicted that CDs would rot and the glue would separate, and maybe that will happen, or it has happened to some people's discs. I've never had that experience. I can't remember a time, maybe once when I bought a CD new in college, decades ago, where I put it in and the CD was defective or whatever. I've never, to my knowledge, had one that stopped playing or, had any issues or anything like that. And, the disc still looks pretty clean to me, looks fine, and still plays like a champ. 40 years later, it'll probably last me the rest of my life, this $35 disc. So if I add it up and I look at it, and maybe this is all of the recorded music I've consumed over the years, including 8-track tapes and LPs, mini discs, cassettes, and certainly the thousands and thousands of CDs, I have to estimate I own maybe 7,000 or 8,000 CDs. It could be upwards of 10,000 CDs. I don't know. It's a 40-year collection. And, it adds up when you, have nothing else to do and you hit the record store on a Friday night. Those trips add up. And now I have just a huge collection of CDs. Now, if you fast forward to today, I can look at this and think, God, if I had taken that $50,000 and put it in, the bank, if I had invested it, if I had done anything, and you can think of that, for lots of things. Some people probably spent $50,000 on their cigarette habit, and what do they have after 40 years? Cancer, So I have these physical CDs, which still exist. They still have value. If I had to sell my entire collection of recorded music, I could get a few $1,000s. I guess it would be, very cumbersome, take a long time, but if I cleared everything out, maybe they would have that, kind of a value. So it's not nothing. You get some sort of return on your investment after all these years. It's, diminished quite a bit, but like I said, maybe I could get, 5 or 10% of what I spent over these many years. And like I said, just as a ballpark guess, I'd have to guess $50,000. And you think, wow, why did I do this? What did I need to do to, get all these CDs and feel like, I really need to own these things? If you look at it from today's perspective, it's all online and on Spotify and on YouTube. It's all, out there. And, I didn't need to do any of this. I just needed to wait 35 years until these things existed, Spotify, YouTube, whatever, and, iTunes, whatever it would be, and I wouldn't have needed to buy any of this stuff. But I don't feel that way at all, and like I said, that's kind of revisionist history. You have to really go back, again, to that time, 1986 or whatever, when CD was a new development, and it was amazing. They didn't pop, they didn't scratch, they didn't warp, they didn't wear out. Even to this day, like I said, they still, seem to work fine. You pop them in a player and they play like they've always played throughout your whole life. So at least if nothing else, the quality has remained, consistent over the years. So again, looking at it now, it's like, did I really need all these? But when you, take it back to that time, and especially with a collection like mine, because I buy a lot of stuff that nobody else listens to. I don't buy the pop hits of the day that you would hear on the radio or whatever. I mean, of course, I own some of that stuff, but the vast majority of stuff I own is stuff that you could not hear anywhere else. Let me push this. There was no other place other than maybe MTV if you'd see a random music video and then that would be on for a certain amount of time and gone. Or, you'd listen to your college radio station and they'd play the cool, edgy, hip, new wave, post-punk, whatever I used to listen to back then. And even bands like REM, of course, when they started were underground and most people didn't know who they were. I mean, I wore, clothes in college and people would, make comments and look at me. I mean, look at me now. I look like everybody else. But back then it was an identity. It was something you could identify with. You could feel like you were in this cool group of people who knew about this certain kind of music that nobody else knew about or listened to. And you could, look down on them and be like, yeah, you guys don't know what's cool because I bought the latest whatever. So here's an example right here. This is the Smiths, The World Won't Listen. Of course, a lot of bands I liked were English. A lot of bands I liked weren't American. You had to buy an imported CD. They were expensive. I picked this up because it still has the price tag. I don't know if you can see it. It's from 1987, and it says $19.99. Now, multiply that by the 8,000 discs I have. Spent a lot of money. I mean, there was a time in the early 90s when you would go to like a chain record store. I can't even remember any of the names of those places now, but you would pop in there and you would see a new record came out from a band you liked, and it would be $16, $17, $18. They really asked a lot of money for CDs, and that went down, thankfully, over the years, but especially with import CDs where they would, have to ship away from England and bring them in or whatever, you'd pay yourself $20 for a disc like this. Now, this is another compilation, and this is a great release with lots of singles that, were coming out at that time, and lots of B-sides and things that you just couldn't get. Now, if you loved a band like the Smiths, like I did, and you were an obsessive fan, you wanted to own everything. You wanted the B-sides, and you wanted the unreleased stuff, and the demos, and the things that they would put on these records that you just couldn't get anywhere else. Now, maybe you had 80% of what was on that release already, but there were those 3-4 songs or whatever you didn't have. You were just going to shell out the money and do it. So, again, this is a record or a disc that, I still enjoy to this day. It came with a big, thick booklet. Matter of fact, I remember this booklet was so thick that it wouldn't even fit in there. You can see the edges are fraying. The booklet was so thick it wouldn't even fit in the slot that gave it. So I just remember and identify and know a lot about a lot of these discs that I bought. It, is connected to a certain memory. I remember the trip that I took to the store to get it, or the fact that, hey, I didn't know this record existed because, of course, we didn't have the internet. You had magazines and things, but they didn't come out all that often. And you would just go to a store and be surprised to find out that one of your favorite bands released a new record. Sometimes you would know it was coming and you'd look for it, and sometimes you would just be flipping through and look at this. I didn't even know, that this thing existed, and here it is, especially these import releases that you wouldn't be aware of because they were overseas. Anyway, so, you have like an association and a connection and a memory that is attached to a lot of these purchases, and that's part of what's exciting about it, and part of the reason why I don't just take all these and go down to the used record store and get rid of them. I mean, I looked at one today, and it was a disc that my, girlfriend from college at the time recommended, a band she liked, and I bought the disc and have enjoyed it for 40 years, and sadly she's passed away, but what do I have? I still have the disc, and every time I look at it, I think, oh yeah, Dawn told me this was a cool band, I should listen to them, and I bought it. So there's a lot wrapped up in it, which you don't get with, streaming files and MTV and MP3s and other non-physical sources. Nobody's going to get sentimental about, the web page of some band that has, whatever song on it, or the playlist on Spotify or anything like that. Having the physical media gives you a, actual connection to an event in your life and a time when you can think back and, enjoy memories that are associated with the purchase and the enjoyment of these discs. Of course, again, you have to go back, and for many years, you couldn't hear it on the radio. It wasn't, anywhere, on a computer or anything like that you had access to it. So you basically, every time you wanted to listen to it, you had to take the disc and put it, whether it was in your car, or in your home, or in a portable player, or whatever, you had to physically have this disc with you, and that's how you enjoyed this music. Now, again, a lot of people probably don't have that connection to music. A lot of people, and I've been the recipient of 3 or 4 people who have literally just brought boxes of CDs to me, and they're like, "Do you want these?" "I don't want them anymore." And they get rid of them. They don't even think twice about it, and that's that. But to me, like I said, I have just always related to, as a musician, as a recording engineer, I've always just admired these records for the songs and the bands and the way they sound and the packaging and the whole thing. And I still, get excited just even going through this rack of CDs that maybe I haven't looked through this particular box in a while, and pull one out and say, "Oh yeah, this one, that one, whatever." So anyway, why the hell did I buy all these goddamn CDs? There's a lot of reasons. And it's hard to relate to today if you're a person who's younger, growing up, and you have it all at your fingertips, and it's like water. And anytime any song pops into your head, you can immediately hear it and play it on, YouTube, Spotify, whatever, streaming service you happen to use. And it's no big deal. And then when it's done, it's done. And then when you want to listen to it again, whenever that is, you just go look for it, and there it is. So, but the fact that these cost money, the fact that they were scarce, the fact that, a lot of these releases, like I said, were, maybe things that I had to buy at a special record store that carried, the latest releases from England or whatever. Not a lot of people had them. There weren't a lot of copies around. And again, most people I know just didn't listen to this kind of stuff. So it's not like I could go to my buddy Joe's house and borrow his copy or whatever. Like, most of these bands are bands that I know and love, but very few other people even know who they are, have ever heard of them, So you really did kind of, if you were into this kind of stuff, need your own copy of it. And that's how I ended up with all these CDs. All right, well, that's it. I just wanted to get this off my chest. It's a different time now. When you look back at it, you can, of course, say, why did I spend all this money? I didn't need to. I could have just waited until it was all online and available and whatever. But the end of the day, you never know. Next week Spotify could be out of business. They're already trying to kick TikTok off the air or whatever. So you just don't know, if you don't own the physical item, how long you'll have access to it. Most likely you will, but you never know. And I still probably own, dozens and dozens of CDs that have never been digitized, that have never ended up online, from bands that just kind of came and went or whatever, things that I love, but just are not available, elsewhere. So bottom line, I'm hanging out on my CDs. It's fun to see them back here in the room. And yeah, I'm just going to continue enjoying these CDs until I'm gone. And then I'm sure someone's going to take them and put them in a big garbage bag and throw them in the dumpster. And there goes 50 grand worth of CDs out the door. But, that's true for a lot of things that you may love, and you may have, a collection or whatever that's important to you. And for the most part, it's not important to anyone else. So that's just how it goes. I could have spent that money on a lot of dumb things, and I chose to spend it on these. All right. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.